Hi, I'm Chris Jonas, and I will be talking about gun violence in the United States. So, some background. Over the past few years, there's been an increase in gun violence throughout the U.S. involving teens, and this comes in the form of mass shootings, suicides, and just gun violence in general on the streets. There's much debate on possible solutions to this problem. There are some ideas of tighter gun laws, community programs to educate people on the pros and cons of owning a firearm, gun buybacks where the community brings guns to the local police department and they can purchase these to get guns off the street, and ban on high capacity magazines to ensure that people aren't owning guns that can cause mass destruction on a larger scale than something like a handgun. So here are some gun violence numbers from 2016 to 2022, and this includes deaths, suicides by gun, injuries, the number of children and teens involved in killings and injuries, mass shootings, murder suicides, defensive use, and unintentional shootings. And you can see that throughout the years, it has stayed relatively steady, but you can see a gradual increase in 2021 with most of these categories of gun violence. So, what is being done? Gun violence intervention programs are being implemented into cities and towns where they reach out to the youth and communities and give them the necessary information to be educated on guns, their uses, and dangers that come with them. And a quote that I found very interesting was: gun violence and assaults occur at high rates within cities and have a disproportionate impact in historically underfunded neighborhoods within our cities. And gun violence in cities reflects and amplifies this country's longstanding systematic and structural inequities. Here are some statistics that I found from Everytown for Gun Safety. In the US, black men are 14 times more likely than white men to die by gun homicide. In 2015, half of all US gun homicides took place in just 127 cities containing less than 25% of the country's population. And in 2015, a quarter of gun homicides in the US occurred in neighborhoods in which less than 2% of the country's population resides. And here's a video. I will not show it, but you can watch where they talk about gun violence programs being used in Chicago and how they have been shown to reduce gun violence. This video is about a month old, but I found it to be pretty interesting that they're using these gun violence programs to educate people in the community and how it's impacting the number of gun violence instances within the city.
Shootings make headlines.
So, Ohio's recent gun law: in 2023, Ohio became the 23rd state to allow concealed carry without a permit. And this allows people eligible to possess a firearm to do so without a permit or training. And before this was put into place in Ohio, you had to get a permit that certifies you to be able to carry a concealed weapon. And this involved training from a qualified professional. And now that this is in place, people can purchase guns and do not need this permit. So you don't need to go through the proper training and know how your firearm works. And a quote from Attorney General Dave Yost that I found interesting was: just because you're not legally required to get training doesn't mean it's not a good idea. Using a firearm is not instinct, and watching TV shows is not training. Ohioans should learn how to handle their firearms from a qualified instructor. A trained citizen is a safe citizen. I liked this quote just because it shows that just because you're not required to get training, it's still important to know how your firearm works and that you are ensuring that you know what you're doing and keeping people around you safe as well as yourself. So what should be done? There's many ideas and solutions that can be done. I think the most important is education. This is educating the youth in cities, and just general public in this area of firearms, because they can really cause damage if you don't use them properly. There can be extensive background checks, having more of an emphasis on people's background can ensure that you're selling it to the right people and not to someone who maybe shouldn't be allowed to have a firearm. And then learning from other nations' gun laws. We have the Second Amendment, which is very different from most countries. So we can't implement other countries' laws, um, where there's many of them that you can't even own a firearm. But if we implemented some ideas from these laws that they have, then this could maybe help um, create a solution where we see a decrease in gun violence like in other countries. So, conclusion, there are many ideas on how to fix the problem of gun violence in America. The Second Amendment is a right, but what we can do to ensure safety, but what can we do to ensure safety in communities? Some ideas are educating the youth, training, and more thorough background checks. And I feel like these three are the most important and main um, ideas that we can focus on to ensure that the communities are safe and that people know how to properly handle a firearm if they choose to own one. And here's my works cited. Thank you.